Only a new sound attracts everyone's attention.
Welcome to People's Distinctive Travels Podcast, starring
Overlord fresh.
People's Distinctive Travels Podcast.
The funny thing, thinking about us recording stuff, like us talking, I feel like for the most part we're pretty much PG rated, but the stuff that I think about and I listen to, not that I'm always going for the most extreme stuff, but I am not at all put off by anything that over the top X-rated or anything. It doesn't bother me at all, and it's fine. I wouldn't maybe write that myself, but to me, like, sometimes the more extreme the better, that's kind of where my brain wants to go.
I went through that the other day on my Instagram page. It was Kool Rap's birthday, and it was like 20 of midnight, and I didn't even know it was his birthday. It was weird. I posted a video, and it was his birthday. I didn't even know it. There's always this.
Oh yeah, I saw somebody commented on that. I didn't know.
The dude named Renda Ryder.
Yeah,
and he said something. I was like, "I'll be right back." He's like, "You got 20 minutes." Well, little did he know I already had something there, but I just had to go clean it up. I hope he doesn't think I did it from scratch.
Yeah,
but it was it was High and Mighty featuring Kool Rap. And it was Talk Like Sex Part 2.
Oh, was it the Smut Peddlers?
Smut Peddlers,
yeah. But that's basically them. Yeah, I have that record.
Smut Peddlers. So High and Mighty and K.
I did see that,
Yeah. And it's just raunchy. And but even in the beginning, it says rated XXX. I put like XXX up there, but I'm like, I really hope I don't like turn off some females that follow my page. But I'm like, every once in a while, a little something. But I'm like, if I did that stuff every day, I mean, I expect people to, who the hell is this guy?
Hey, straight up and down. I want everybody to know this jam right here contains explicit lyrics. Crazy, wicked, nasty, dirty, nasty, snotty lyrics. But you'll love it.
2 comments related to that, because this is what we do. Did you remember that movie CB4 with Chris Elliott and Chris Rock?
Yeah.
So there's I don't know if it was in the movie, but there's like a soundtrack to it, which I have, and there's a song that samples Talk Like Sex, and it actually uses, like, the MC uses the lines from it, like, swinging with this here stud, you need practice. I'm leaving on your mattress. I don't know if they use that one specifically,
right.
But they were, using those kind of lines, Notice I picked one that wasn't at the top. But anyway, do you know who rapped on that soundtrack? And particularly was on that verse?
All right, give me some hints.
It's somebody that goes way back to our era. I will give you one more hint. It's a member of a crew, like a group. And it's not someone that you would necessarily think would be doing a rap like that.
It's a member of a crew.
Another hint is it's someone who is currently making albums too.
Does this crew this crew comprised of solo members or a lot of groups or both?
No, I would say some of the members have branched off into other directions, but I wouldn't say they were necessarily a bunch of solo artists. One member did like more production, and then there was one other member. No, 2 of the members had solo albums, but that was more after the fact.
Wow. Can I ask you another?
Yeah.
Can I put
the questions? The question.
What is their particular coast or area they're from?
New York.
That doesn't.
I'll give you a hint. Frequent references to all the boroughs. We've talked about this before.
Frequent references to all the. Oh wait. Was it okay? Can I? Oh, so let me ask you a question. Was it somebody in the Juice Crew?
No.
Was it somebody in Native Tongues?
One member of this group had a connection to the Native Tongues, but I wouldn't consider them a member of the Native Tongues.
Oh, this is interesting. A crew.
Somebody we both love.
Can't be Boot Camp. That's really no.
No, earlier than that.
Oh, really? Oh. All right, now we're getting there. It's Flavor Unit.
Nope.
It's not Flavor.
Nope.
Oh my God.
Not Flavor Unit.
Damn it.
I'm sure at least someone in this crew has probably worked with members of the Flavor Unit, but
Damn it. I thought that was good.
you want a little
I give up.
sound sample reference?
Go ahead.
She don't live in Manhattan. Bronx, Queens, on the island of Staten. Yeah, Daddy O is doing the rap.
When I'm with my homies, we're rolling. Can't love a car less it's stolen.
Oh.
It's crazy. I didn't even realize it at the time, but I got the soundtrack and I'm like, what? Yep, Daddy O.
You know, Blue. Now you're thinking of talk about Daddy O. I remember the first time. I don't remember how old I was, and I'm watching TV, and I'm watching a Polly-O string cheese commercial.
I was not expecting you to go there.
I heard Daddy O's voice. I'm like, what?
Nice.
And I think it was like a parrot or something on there. And I'm like, wow. We've come a long way.
Yeah. Well, I think about this all the time, how I can recognize any rapper's voice that I know well. I don't know every rapper well,
right.
But if it's a rapper that I know well,
yeah.
I know their voice. That is so weird. I don't even need to see them. Like I just know who it is,
The bird is the word. Remember that?
The
And he's like, the bird is the word. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
But going back to the other story related to Talk Like Sex was, everyone talks about that song. But there was a similar song on Live or Let Die.
F you, man.
F you, man. And some of this stuff he said on there was like so bonkers.
Because he had to turn it up a notch.
Yeah.
Oh, you thought that was raunchy?
The thing with the giraffe was one of my favorite
I
parts.
don't remember the lyrics of that.
You couldn't
Crocker.
giraffe. You was a
Crocker.
giraffe. Oh man, I could not wait to play that for my friends. Don't worry, I'm not gonna leave that one in there. But man, that just cracked me up, man. Oh, another personal favorite of mine. I believe it's from that. I don't think it's from Talk Like Sex. I'm pretty sure it's from F You Man. My and spit out the pit. I mean, there's a point where it's not even like enticing to a woman, like to find that right line. You know what I mean? Like he went way past it. I don't know. Like he might be able to like turn on someone who's
I think
in the porn industry.
I think it's more or less. I think it's. I mean, it's funny. It's for guys. It's like we'll sit there and laugh, like guys, like we're doing now.
Yeah.
You're not playing that for any woman.
No,
She's like,
no.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Look, I got the best night set up for you. I made you dinner. I'm gonna start off with a little Sade, and then I'm gonna play F You Man and Talk Like Sex. You know what I mean?
Cool G rap.
Yeah.
For the finale.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I love it. See, this is so great. It's so nice to just sit and talk about stuff that, I've listened to for years, thought about it, laughed about it, and I could just say it, and you're like, you pick up the line,
I know where you're at.
Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going. It's so cool.
That's why we do the podcast.
Exactly. Okay, so I guess we kind of got to get... I'm about to get serious, real serious. That was in something too, right? I'm about to get serious, real serious. I think it's like, that might be EST actually. I don't know. It's something like that. I remember somebody say. And also the Serious remix.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, this is a remix. I love that one, man.
Now, take the time.
Yeah.
Remix it.
Yes. I love that stuff. Okay, so... we had a little fun here, and obviously, I mean, dude, if somebody can't tell how much you and I love
nerd out over
everything
hip hop,
it's great. It's so fun to go back and not just go back, go forward too.
Yeah.
But I think we could go on for days and talk about everything we love about hip hop. But I think it would be really interesting, and I don't think we've ever had a conversation about this before. But I would love to hear from you if there was ever a time in your life when, like, after you started listening to hip hop, if you started to maybe become a little more distanced from it than you typically would be, either because you maybe weren't feeling as much of the stuff that was coming out at the time, or and you started maybe picking up on other styles or other genres of music that kind of counterbalanced what you were listening to with regard to hip hop. Can you think of anything like that?
Still in like a hip hop vein, but I can say, I've listened to hip hop from all over, East Coast, West Coast, down, some down south, like the Ghetto Boys and UGK and stuff like that. But I remember there was an album, East Coast heavy, but I remember there was a time when I wasn't really liking East Coast music that much. And my brother was living in LA. He was living on the West Coast. So he used to send me tapes from the Wake Up Show. And the stuff that and actually, you know what? I actually was out there. I remember I went out there. I forgot, like 93, I was out there. And you remember Herb Magazine?
Oh, yeah. I used to get issues of that. I remember I would go in and buy all kinds of music magazines, but that was always one I would check out. Yep. Yeah.
So Herb Magazine used to be like on the street. Like you could actually, when they had when you buy newspapers on the street, and it was free.
Oh, wow.
So you could just go and
that's before probably. I probably started seeing it show up at like Barnes and Noble or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, I think I still have a few of those, and they were big. They were huge. It was like it's almost like on paper. It's like paper, like black and white paper.
Okay.
Or like newspaper.
Like when you say huge, you don't just mean thick. You mean like it was just like large.
The size, it was bigger. It wasn't like, I don't know what the average size of I don't know if a magazine's, 8 by, not necessarily 8 by 10, but you know what I'm saying? Like the dimensions, it was bigger.
Yeah, I can kind of picture that. Okay.
And I remember like 93 and he used to send me those magazines. And then I remember when I was out there in 93, I picked up like, I don't know how long I was out there. So maybe I only got one or two or something. But I was seeing groups. Like I hadn't heard like Volume 10 and Sin, maybe like Abstract Rude, or I think at that time I might have heard of Freestyle Fellowship, but it was like all those Good Life, groups, and it was just like, and then I started trying to find some of that stuff, and then the tapes that he was sending me from the Wake Up Show, I'm hearing like that was the first time I heard Razcast, like Remain Anonymous and Won't Catch Me Running, and I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Like he's just dude, it was ridiculous. And then like Michael Myers, I heard like him. The Barbershop MCs, I heard like Feel the Agony.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know, like all those Good Life MCs, like Medusa. Coco, Medusa. It was just so many West Coast, but it was, and that, then also at the time, like West Coast then might be more G-Funk. So this was just straight, these guys are just ripping mics. Yeah. Like Ganja K, who else? Rifleman, LA Kool. Like all that, if you've ever seen that documentary, This Is the Life, you ever seen that?
I've not seen that, no. I need to, you know what? I think I may have seen that. That sounds familiar.
That documentary was like everything to me because
you know what, I think I saw clips from like maybe some similar clips in that documentary Freestyle, because I think they used a lot of clips from like the Good Life, what is it, Good Life Cafe?
Yeah.
So maybe I didn't see that. Is that what it's about?
It's okay.
I don't think I did see that.
Actually my brother went to the Good Life before.
Okay.
So I was like jealous. Like him and I talked about my homeboy DJ Spoon, like they went there. And I was so jealous, like, damn, you guys got to go to the Good Life. And I think when I went out when I used to rap, I went out there and I think they wanted me to go to the Good Life or something, but I don't know if it was, I don't think we weren't there on a Thursday. But I think they would have had me in there trying to rap. Oh, dude, I'd have got booed. Like, he's like, who is this dude?
I don't say that.
Dude, listen, watching those dudes, like now, like, and those guys were murderers. The way, dude, man.
I feel like there was a very strong emphasis on different flows, you know, from that kind of era and that area too, you know. Like, I feel like they innovated different kind of patterns and stuff. You know, similarly to probably what Ultramagnetic did, like earlier on. But even that, you know, they kind of took it even further, I think, you know.
I think, I mean, I don't want to get anybody riled up, but I think there's a lot of freestyle. I mean, when I don't even want to say freestyle fellowship, there's a lot of Good Life clones in the industry. There's a lot of people eating off of the styles that they created. And it's not just West Coast, like all over.
But isn't that always what happens? Like somebody innovates and then you just have people that kind of ride that wave down, you know what I mean? And, you know, and then it kind of evens out again, you know?
And I also do think, I mean, I can't speak to this, but I also think, unbeknownst to people, I think sometimes things happen at the same time.
Gotcha.
And you could be at a different place. Like, I can't speak on it. I really don't know, but it wasn't lost on me that who are the guys from Cleveland? Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Okay.
They sounded kind of like a freestyle fellowship, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Two different things, and it was kind of at the same time. So did they go and get the style from them, or you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I know they were out here with Eazy-E, went at the same time. I mean, could it have happened? It could be, but I don't know. I feel like didn't they have that one album, that Bone, that Faces of Death? I wasn't really into them, but
yeah, I wasn't really that.
Yeah,
into that.
but that was like Freestyle Fellowship. That first album was like 91. The Whom It May Concern. I think that was like.
Yeah, I think
it was like 91. Yeah,
so that was pretty early.
I don't know, but although those dudes are amazing. Like what literally some of the best MCs I've ever heard in my life.
And you could listen to them over and over and still discover new things, not just even new lyrics, but new sounds, like ways things like bounced off of each other, you know.
Be advised they'll come. Be advised they'll come in from a sky kingdom. Hear the trumpets and then be advised they'll come from a pure black whirlwind. Be advised they'll come. Be advised they'll come.
It was such a kind of like fertile,
you
know, ground for just trying out new stuff. It must have been. I wasn't there. I can't really talk about it from a firsthand perspective, you know. But I like that you brought that up because, you know, I feel like I kind of landed in that same place, but you know, for me, it was definitely after the fact, you know.
Right.
It took me a while to get there, you know, but yeah, I remember after I graduated college and got my first job, I started hanging out with people that I worked with, and there was this one guy who was really the only one in that group. He didn't work with us, but he was friends with someone who did, and kind of at that point, I was not as hip-hop heavy as I am now.
Right.
And he started talking to me about Soul Sides, you know, and he mentioned Company Flow and Raucous, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I was so used to always being up on anything new, you know what I mean? And he starts telling me these things, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? You know, how did I miss all this? So, you know, he kind of jump-started me, you know, get kind of looking into some of that stuff further. And, you know, I did, and, you know, Soul Sides, that was West Coast, you know, so, you know, once I started kind of digging into that a little bit more, you know, I finally kind of ended up digging into, like, I remember, well, I could tell you a little bit more about how I got to like Abstract Rude and stuff like that. Do you want me to tell you that now?
Please do.
Okay. So when I went, so this was actually a little bit well, the seeds of this happened before that interaction with that guy that was friends with someone I worked with. But I remember in college, you know, I was still listening to some hip hop. It was right around the time I remember that Balloon Mind State came out, which I really liked. I remember couple kids on my floor in my dorm, they were always playing that and playing Wu-Tang. And, I still had a little bit of my finger on the pulse of hip hop, but I wasn't loving all the releases as much,
Right.
At that point. It just wasn't resonating with me. And it was around that same time that I started to, I think I just took a chance, because I always loved the musical side of hip hop, which I love the lyrical side too. And maybe that's part of what made me branch out, because like lyrically I still felt like there was something there, but musically it wasn't as interesting to me. It was like, at that point.
Right.
And I don't know that I still feel that way about that era, but at that point I just wanted something newer sounding, So I remember being at Tower Records in Cherry Hill. I used to go there all the time. Man, I used to love going in Tower.
Didn't you?
Because I would just see a lot. Actually, that's how I ended up getting Plant Life, which we were talking about earlier. But I remember I had a vague sense of this group, The Orb. And I had just read, they're like a British like electro group. And I had just read an article of this guy named Aphex Twin. And it just sounded really interesting to me. So I remember being in Tower, and I don't know about you, but I always responded very strongly to the visuals on albums, So I was like, okay, I'm going to look up this Orb. And I saw this one. It was called Orbis Terrarum. And the art on it, I was like, whoa, this is cool. I was looking at the song titles. There's only like 7 songs on there. And it just kind of captured my mind. So I'm like, okay, let me grab this. I think I was still buying tapes at that point. And then I was like, I remember reading about that Aphex Twin. So I went and I bought great title. I don't know. Are you familiar with Aphex Twin at all?
I've heard some stuff,
Okay.
but not,
Okay.
not.
So I picked up an album that had recently come out at the time. It's called I Care Because You Do, which I think is such a great title. That's kind of his. He's got like a sinister kind of sense of humor, I think Kanye sampled him for one of his songs on Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Okay.
But anyway, so I just, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to buy these 2 records. I didn't hear anything off them. I just was like, okay, let me try it. So I remember going home and putting that in. And it kind of blew my mind, and no lyrics,
right?
It's all like sound collage and electronic music, So it, kind of took me over, and then, and that's how I am, Once I hear something new, I'm like, okay, I want more of that. And I remember news groups on the internet.
Yes.
I started like looking through there. Okay, what are other people who like this listening to? So I got a lot of ideas from that, and also around that same time, this is cool because I hadn't thought about this in a while. I hope I'm not talking too much, but
ooh, please.
This is cool. I haven't thought about this. So around that same time, I had heard. So do you know who XTC is? It's like a rock band.
Yeah.
They started in the 70s, and
yes,
they're a band that I really like.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of their albums, and one of the artists from that group, his name is Andy Partridge. He's like half of the songwriting, and then there's another guy who writes some of the songs. But he had done this album with Harold Budd. Do you know who Harold Budd is?
No.
Harold Budd is like a... it's hard to say. It's hard to really categorize his music. He... some might call it ambient. He played piano, but he used a lot of effects, and he would work with other artists. Brian Eno worked with him on a few albums. And of any artist I can think of, he kind of captures the music in my brain probably the best. There's something about this guy, Right. He actually died during COVID, sadly. But he had a ton of albums. He started out in, I think, the 60s, and was a little more experimental, and then he just kind of got more into, more kind of beautiful kinds of sounds. So anyway, Andy Partridge was doing this record with Harold Budd, and I was like, I'm going to check this out. I didn't know who Harold Budd was at that point. So right around that same time, I also bought that album. I found it in New Hope, actually. Okay. We used to go up to New Hope all the time, like from college, So I had these 3 tapes, and they just branched out from there. I started finding other Harold Budd albums. I remember, so Orb, I ended up getting more Orb albums, and then that led me to a group called Future Sound of London, which is a British electronic group. So it just kind of branched out. There was a guy that he was like I forget what they called it, like big brother when we first arrived at college. And he was really into it. So he was like, oh, you need to check. He made me a mix at one point, So I got really heavy into electronica. And then that led to drum and bass. I remember listening to Timeless by Goldie. And then that led me to all this like trip hop stuff, like Tricky and Portishead, and then a label that kind of popped out of that was Big Dada. Yep. Which put out a lot of artists that would probably fall more into that trip hop genre, but it also included, I believe, I remember they had a sampler, and there were like 2 Abstract Rude and Tribe Unique songs on there.
My experience is out of your body, into your mind, over your walls, under the ground, beyond your time.
And I think Saul Williams was on there too. So I heard those things, and it kind of combined. I love this because this happens to me all the time. It kind of combined, that more electronic sound, but it was people rapping or saying like spoken word over it. Right. And it kind of married those two, and I was like, oh, this is great. So it's a good example of how I kind of made my way back to hip hop through another genre of music, because somebody kind of helped to connect those dots for me. You know what I mean? So, and then once I discovered all that, that's when I started to dig deeper, and I heard out, I remember hearing about AC Alone, and so I explored that, and that led me to, the Freestyle Fellowship, like you were talking about. So sometimes I do kind of go in the back door. If somebody tried to hand me AC Alone before I did all that, I would have been like, oh, it just doesn't register, what I mean? But because I kind of went in all those weird directions, I kind of got back to it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm there, you know what I mean? And then from there, it just, it kind of, instead of it being like I replaced hip-hop with electronica or trip-hop, it was more like now I had both tracks going at the same time. Right. You know what I mean? But I do often, when I get into something, I kind of go down that track exclusively for a while, because I just want to keep hearing more, you know? But yeah, I would say that was a pretty lengthy period of time where I was kind of cheating on hip-hop a little. You know what I mean? Like I just
cheating on your girl.
Yeah, I was cheating on my girl.
You was cheating, yes you was. Caught you creeping, yes I did.
And it was good, but I think it was good for me. I feel like it kind of took me in some different places. It is funny how it does come full circle a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Matter of fact, so we're talking about I gotta slip this in.
Yeah. Slip that shit in like Mickey's, right? I know. Remember I mentioned that we were talking about Talib Kweli.
So we talk about hip hop and loves and stuff like this. I won't say her name because she might be listening. But no, it's tame. But I remember I kind of started dating this girl. Did I say this before about dating a girl because she had the Funky Homo Sapien?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm not going to say her name. She knows what
I got a funny story related to this. I'm glad you brought this up.
So me and my homeboy Slade, we were hanging out, and then we met up. I'm serious. Her name is Chris. Whatever. I don't give a damn. I'm old enough. So anyway, we were supposed to hang out with Chris, and we were going to go down to South Street. And go to Tower Records on South Street.
Nice. That was a great one. Remember the hip hop section was in the basement.
Yeah,
that was the best.
And I remember, so she was going to drive us down there, and when I got into her car, I was getting in the back seat, and she had a the Funky Homo Sapien cassette.
Which one? Do you remember?
The second one.
Oh,
No Need for Alarm. So I'm like, and this is, so what's this got to be 94, 93, 93, 94? Yeah, like 93. So when I get in the back, she has that. I'm like, all right, I could see. No, listen. I love Adele albums, but I could see if she more or less had the first album with like, she like Mr. Dabalina, but I'm like, oh, you got this one?
Yeah.
Like, yo, this is some dark, like, so when I saw that up, now I'm like, now my eyes turn like, I'm like, oh, now she's cool. Because I knew this girl already from like college.
It's like, beer goggles? You had hip-hop
Yeah,
goggles.
I did have goggles. Because she used to hang with some of my friends, but I didn't like her. I was like, oh, this girl's a herb. Like, she's corny. And so then it's like, now the goggles go on. So anyway, I don't know. Then we ended up dating and living together for like 4 years.
Wow.
Then we broke up. Yeah. What's up, Chris?
Love it. This is good. So I'm glad you brought up, the hip hop goggles. I think we just invented a new term.
Hip hop goggles. You had them too?
Well, I think those whatever goggles I had were already on before this happened, but maybe it was a combination. Who knows?
They fine-tuned. Hip hop goggles fine-tuned.
Something tells me by me saying that, I've totally made whatever you said with Chris totally fine. Dude, I'm going to get smacked. Nah, it's all good. That's so great. I mean, this is nothing compared to the stuff I usually say. So, my wife, who you've met, we went to college together. Mm-hmm. She was 2 years behind me.
Okay.
And, I knew her a little bit here and there, and not great, but I always thought she was really cute, and I had a couple different girlfriends in college, and at one point, I guess I was kind of like over a relationship or whatever, and she was in this club that I was in. It was like the crisis helpline on campus for kids, that felt like they needed someone to talk to, maybe felt depressed or overwhelmed by a test or a paper they were writing or whatever, and we could kind of help, we would talk to them, but also help them connect to resources that could help them better than we could, because we were just, college students,
Right.
But anyway, we had this, it was like what do they call it when you kind of go away together and do like icebreakers and stuff.
Retreat?
Like it was like a retreat. Yeah. We had like a retreat. And I remember two things kind of connected for me during it. One was there was like an ink blot activity where we had to just kind of say what we saw, like what first came to our head. And it's so funny because, again, another example of how so many things in my life always come back to hip hop. Mm-hmm. So there was this one ink blot, and almost immediately, like I was like, I have to go first because it just came to me immediately. It's the Wu-Tang symbol, And my wife, who was in the group, she's like, "Oh yeah," And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Hip hop goggles.
Yeah. And then, and I remember a little later in the evening, I was talking about I couldn't wait to see Prince on the Oprah show, and because he was putting out his Emancipation album, which he had just split from Warner, and it was like a 3-disc album, So anyway, I was talking about that, and she's like, "You like Prince?" And at that point, I'm like, "Oh, she hates Prince. She's gonna think it's dumb." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, I'm like, "You like Prince?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I have like all his albums. My mom took me to Purple Rain when I was like 7 years old, So I'm like, "Oh, okay, So anyway, I'm sure she was just so magnetized to me by that point that she actually called me, said she was interested in hanging out. So at some point, it was a great year, man. It was my senior year of college, and I had a single. I had like number 6 in the lottery in terms of choice. So I'm like, I'm getting a single, man. This is great. So I got to set up my room exactly the way I wanted it, and those tape cases. I still had a bunch of tapes, and I had them in the room, and I took them out because I didn't just have them laying out like I'm not cluttered, so
No,
but I pulled out the cassette thing, and she's like looking at it. She's like, "Oh, you got Kwame?" And I'm like, Kwame?
Damn.
And then she's like, Digital Underground? And then she's like, "Oh." We were talking about Wu-Tang because I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you like that. You noticed that Wu-Tang symbol too." And she's like, "Oh yeah, my friends used to bring over the Gravediggers all the time." I'm like, the Gravediggers? You know what I mean? I was just like, wow, this is like, I mean, we would have still gotten along great without that, but it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Hey everybody, this is UltraMag7. Thanks for listening to the episode. As always, like, comment, and share. Please get the algorithm moving. Also follow our page on YouTube and also follow our Instagram page. See you next episode.